Hey. How's that sound? Is it coming through? How's the signal? Need me to get
Can
closer?
you move it a little closer to you?
Yeah, for sure. You scoot up here.
Yeah,
All right. Am I going to be right up on it like that? Is that okay?
Yeah,
okay.
great.
Awesome. Just didn't want to.
That immediately puts you into podcast voice right there.
Oh, very nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess it does.
Once you're close to the microphone, it creates what they call the proximity effect. Which brings the lower...
your NPR voice.
The lower sounds of your voice, yeah, which is your NPR voice, exactly. And which has now has become the podcast voice.
Oh, goodness.
I had the NPR voice years ago. So
yeah.
I had it before it was cool, man. Hi, I'm Michael A. I've been a DJ both on radio and in clubs since the mid-'80s here in Flint, Michigan. Flint is one of the most unique cities in the world, with a vibe and a heart like no other. Any musician who plays here is somehow transformed by it. This podcast explores the experiences of those musicians, visitors, or native Flintoids, both on stage and off. We'll check out some of their music, look at their history in my hometown of Flint, and have a few laughs along the way. We call it the Flint Connection. Welcome to the Flint Connection. I'm Michael A., and I'm sitting here with Fernando Silverio Solis.
Hey.
Did I say it right?
You did, and that's you're one of the few that have said it right. I like that.
I'm feeling very proud. Fernando has been. How long would you say you've been playing music in the Flint area?
Oh man, I would say at least it feels like 15 years.
Wow.
Yeah, I've been round and round with different bands, and
I remember you from a band called Goldblum.
Take me to your favorite place you like to drown. Your family keeps on calling, but you're not around. You find yourself at home between the bar stools now, but you're good, girl. You're good, girl.
Yep, that was 2016, I think.
Okay.
Yep, and then before then, I was in a band called 1876.
Oh, okay.
And that was like a hardcore punk outfit. Mm-hmm. And then before then, I was in a band called Transatlantic Sail. It was the same band before then called Remember Me. We just had a name change. And it was kind of like an indie rock, emo kind of band, early 2000s. And then before then, I was in a nu metal band. I actually really enjoy nu metal. I went through a phase where I was younger and I enjoyed it. And then I went through a phase where I got a little bit older and I said, oh no. I think I became a little bit too, I was like, I didn't want to acknowledge where I started with music. And then now that I'm older, I'm like, nu metal rocks. I think I'm just embracing the cringe of my life.
That has become something of a theme with you, actually.
Yeah.
We'll get to that in a little bit.
For sure.
One of the things that I've definitely noticed about your path as a musician, and you're constantly evolving, you kind of keep your eyes open to the next thing. And the next thing may not be the most fashionable thing. Would you say Goldblum had kind of like an emo kind of vibe to it, or?
Yeah, it was, I think it was like emo Americana. Near the end of that project, it was definitely leaning towards like, like Jason Isbell kind of stuff. But that's where that was headed, at least.
And now that you're doing the solo thing, you started out doing sort of a folky kind of thing, and now you're going full on pedal steel cowboy music.
Yeah. I have two approaches that I'm taking right now. And one is that I don't want to ever stop writing. So I'm currently trying to put out a new song every month, for better or for worse. It doesn't matter to me. But the other one is like the band outfit, which is like Fernando Silverio Solis, Il Sueño. And that's definitely more of like what you were speaking to where it's like the pedal steel and it's just more country, Americana, folk rock.
Although you have put some unusual elements into the songs now and again too. I mean, some of the stuff you've actually put some electronic elements into it, which was surprising to me, but I really appreciated it.
I spend a lot of time at home when I'm writing, and that's just, I'd like to travel more, but right now that's just kind of what works for my life and until I'm playing shows, you know. And I spend a lot of time trying to find calming and soothing sounds. So I was going through a phase where I was listening to a lot of lo-fi playlists. And so I had found someone that makes lo-fi music. And so I had written a song on acoustic guitar, and I thought, I don't want to change anything about this, and I want it to feel like a lo-fi song. And so I found someone that would work with me on that. And, you know, whenever I get the opportunity to include some electronic elements, I'm like, yeah, let's do it. I might not be able to redo it live, but let's do it.
I don't wanna be alone. I just wanna be with you. I don't wanna be alone. I just wanna be with you. Do you remember all the ways you used to lead me on? Like a moth drawn to a flame, I don't know right from wrong. I act so desperate when I think that you are gonna call. I start rehearsing all the words that I can't say out loud. Do you ever think about me? Do you ever think about me? I don't wanna be alone. I just wanna be with you. I don't wanna be alone. I just wanna be with you. Try to tell you I'm hurt. Don't you think that I'm worth it? After all that I've done for you, then you leave me on red. Reply before bed, hoping I'm not waiting. Wasn't I good to you, darling? You throw me scraps when you know I'm starving. I don't wanna be alone. I just wanna be with you. I don't wanna be alone. I just wanna be with you. I don't wanna be alone. I just wanna be with you. I don't wanna be alone. I just wanna be with you. I don't wanna be alone. I just wanna be with you. I don't wanna be alone. I just wanna be with you. I don't wanna be alone. I just wanna be with you. I don't wanna be alone. I just wanna be with you.
So the focus of this podcast is not just musicians, but musicians who have played in the city of Flint, whether they're local like yourself or, you know, from outside of the area. And so one of the things I'd like to ask you about is playing live in Flint. What was your first experience playing on a Flint stage?
My first experience playing in Flint was the Flint Local 432.
Like so many people, yeah.
Hands down, that is, I feel that is a place and a community that I owe so much of my creative journey to. There's never been a point throughout learning how to play to then continuing to learn how to write songs and performing them up to this point in my life that it's not been incorporated. I'm playing there in May as well, and it's just always been a staple of like, okay, let me play a show here, let me try it out. And it was the first place I tried it out, so it's always going to be the place I'm going to go to try out songs, so long as they keep booking me.
It seems like once you've played there, you never stop.
Yeah.
I mean, the Guilty Bystanders play there, and they've been doing shows since the 80s.
Yeah.
So that's pretty wild.
Yeah. But
It's a very inclusive community, which is something I've always appreciated about the local.
I found so many genres. It was the one place that I went to that where, I don't know. Sure, there were, when I was younger, at least, there were nights that were designated to like metal nights or hip hop nights or punk night, but we were there at every show, regardless of what our favorite genre was or regardless of what kind of artists we were. And it was just because who else is going to come out if we don't? We have to believe in it for anyone else to, right? So that's just kind of what we all did growing up. We just kind of said, all right, I'll be there,
So you play the local. How does that first show go?
Honestly, it was hysterical to me. I was in a band with two other staff members at the time, two members of King 810, and then Rudy Meyer, who was a sound guy at the local at the time. He did vocals, and there was a guy named Jim who played drums. And this was like the more like new metal kind of outfit, but like I said, it really wasn't new metal. It was just like a weird, aggressive and aggro kind of band, right? And funny enough is that I didn't listen to too much music like that at the time when I joined this band. I listened to like, I don't know, like just MTV, sugar coated punk bands at the time, because that's what was getting me into music. The rest of the guys were all like metalheads for sure, but the show.
But what year would this be?
Oh man, this was probably maybe 2003.
Okay.
Yeah. And we get our first show, and everyone that we had made friends with at the time came to the show. So we had a pretty packed crowd because we all worked at the local at this point. We were all volunteers. So either we were running the front door, or we were running the back door, or we were helping with sound, or we were helping with the store and selling the candy and pop and stuff. So we knew a lot of people, and so a lot of people came out without even knowing what we sounded like at all, and that was really cool. But it was a very funny thing to me because we're on stage and we're young, and there's the whole like there's a vibe that when you're playing like certain styles of music, right? And we're playing this dark music, and just somber looks on our faces. And we're playing this aggressive sounding music, and our vocalist ends up screaming so hard from his diaphragm that he ends up throwing up, and he's like rolling around on the ground, and the rest of us are just like playing these sludgy riffs, so it was just chaotic, and so there was this group of people that were there, and some of them were like into that kind of scene. But like I said, we knew a bunch of different people. So a lot of different people came to watch, to be supportive, because that's what we did for everyone back then. So there were some people who were like, yes, this is awesome. Not ready. And there's other people who were like, what the hell is this? Oh my God. So it was, it was a circus, and it was fun. And after that, my cousins never came back to another show of mine. So
it was nice that they tried.
Yeah, they tried, but it was awesome. And after that I was hooked. I loved playing shows. It didn't really matter to me how, like, if anyone was going to show up or not. It was just like getting the opportunity to make something and someone saying, yeah, hey, just come show us what you made. And that's what it felt like going to a space like that. You got the opportunity to express yourself, and in expressing yourself, you were able to feel connected to other people. That's what playing music has always been for me. It's a way to, you can be in the same room with a bunch of other people listening to the same band, and you all feel the same thing without saying a word to each other. And that's incredible. Going to other shows, going to festivals, someone will come up to you and you just know why you're both there. In that moment, you may make a friend for a lifetime, or you may just make a friend in that moment. But either way, it's a chance to just connect. Being able to play music made me feel like I could connect like that in a way. So after that, I just kept trying to find a way to keep doing it.
Maybe all you needed was a reason to go. Honey, I've been looking for some way to settle down. Giving up ain't no reason to stay. If you gave me some time, well, maybe I could show you around. Are you still holding on to those Hollywood dreams? Do you think there's some love like the love on the movie screen? Or is it getting harder to catch up on sleep? When you keep waking up to the same old scenes, I won't turn away. Well, there's no point in looking for what I've already found. I won't ask you to wait. Well, I know what it's like to be second place. I won't ask you to change. I don't need nobody to give me some solid ground. Please don't walk away. I just wanna be somebody that you keep around. Will you still call me from work every day? Tell me how you've been doing. Look, do you feel the same? Does he disappoint you and beg you to stay? Well, I still got the car if you wanna escape. I won't turn away. Well, there's no point in looking for what I've already found. I won't ask you to wait. Well, I know what it's like to be second place. I won't ask you to change. I don't need nobody to give me some solid ground. Please don't walk away. I just wanna be somebody that you keep around. Are you just so damn afraid of being alone? What's even the point of keeping them around when you already know? Are you just so damn afraid of being alone? What's even the point of keeping them around when you already know? Honey, you're the reason I've been feeling this way. But I know that you're saving me for a rainy day. I won't turn away. Well, there's no point in looking for what I've already found. I won't ask you to wait. Well, I know what it's like to be second place. I won't ask you to change. I don't need nobody to give me some solid ground. Please don't walk away. I just wanna be somebody that you keep around. I just wanna be somebody that you keep around. I just wanna be somebody that you keep around.
What's the first music that made you feel that way?
First music that made me feel,
A connection with the people that you were.
oh man, there's a few different eras of that.
Let's go to the beginning.
Oh man, okay. I love Dwight Yoakam. I grew up with my dad showing me different country artists, you know, and my grandfather was really into Dwight Yoakam. So my dad kind of like absorbed a lot of like these different records, and Friday nights or Saturday nights, my dad would have like a six or a beer, and we'd hang out in the back room, and he had the stereo system, and he would just play music all night long. And so 1,000 Miles from Nowhere is probably one of the first songs that I'm like, whoa, this is just the idea of experiencing that kind of heartbreak to where you're like, you are so far from any semblance of being connected to the idea of love, right? And it's a song about this guy who just has his heart broken. That's one of my earliest memories of music making me feel that way. And then two of them make me kind of laugh. And one of them is the Goo Goo Dolls. I love the Goo Goo Dolls, but it's like Name is one of my favorite songs ever, like hands down. The thing that I loved about that band is like, you could pick up a Goo Goo Dolls record and like they'd have these like, these really sad kind of like acoustic driven songs, and then like these just like ruckusy, like you could tell you could tell they wanted to be rockers. You could tell that they were like into like more punk music. I'm trying to think. And then when I was in high school, I think, oh man, I'm a sucker for Bright Eyes. Early 2000s Bright Eyes, Conor Oberst. Like as I got older, I enjoyed more of his like later stuff, but like I'll listen back to like some of the earlier things that like pulled at my heartstrings as a teenager, and I'm like, man, I was really going through it because I couldn't in my 30s listen to this and think this is listenable. But that's not to say anything bad about the songwriting. It was like more so now my ears I think are spoiled because like some of those recordings are just done really like you could tell like it's a one track thing, but that's what made it special to me at the time. I feel less like this now, but I know maybe 10 years ago, listening back to like some of the earlier stuff that would make me feel emotional as a younger person, I would kind of like have a chuckle because I'm just like, oh, whatever, But then now as I'm older, even, 10 years later now, I can listen to that and I remember what it feels like to lay down on a carpet and hear those records for the first time, and how warm it made you feel. Because it sounded like your best friend just being upset about something in the other room. And you know what that feels like, or you yourself being upset and or just experiencing life. And
this is the whole sort of homemade quality of it.
I loved it growing up, and growing up, I think some of myself and my peers started challenging ourselves to try to make higher fidelity sounding records. And then as time went on, I'm like, I don't know, there's a place for that, Mm-hmm. And just in the way, like, I know you're gonna cringe when I say it, just in the way that like I grew out of new metal, I found a place for new metal later on in my life. but yeah, I think life's funny like that. You can kind of it's like growth in a way to be able to look at these different feelings that you've experienced, whether it's personal or maybe through someone else's art, and to not feel so ashamed of it as you've gotten older, and just saying, oh, that's a part of who I am, part of who I was, part of what I'll be tomorrow, so.
In terms of musicians or bands that gave you that feeling of community, gave you that feeling of becoming part of something bigger than yourself, did you have that experience with local bands at the local, for example?
I absolutely did. Kinetic Stereo Kids. They definitely have a psychedelic vibe about them. At least that's what I gathered. I can hear a little bit of Radiohead pulled into that as well. I kind of felt like I could hear a little bit of like the Beastie Boys, but not necessarily like the rapping, but just more so like production, like these kind of lo-fi beats, like the way that they would sometimes put Tony Vu's drums through whatever filters they were doing on some parts of their songs, mm-hmm. And sampling. They did a lot of sampling as well, so they were just pulling all over the place. I mean, there's probably some other like bands that if I listened to it, I could say, oh yeah, for sure, but I just can't remember. But they were just such a cool mix of all these like really like weird art rock type of bands, and that's what I gathered from them. But Kinetic Stereo Kids definitely did that for me when I was really young. There is a very vivid memory I have of laying on the ground of the Carlton's building. And that's just like what it was like at that show that I went to. Everyone was kind of like vibing out in their own way. And I was laying there, and it just felt like what I would later learn drugs to feel like, because I hadn't done any yet at that time. But I remember thinking, I feel like I'm just in a whole other universe right now. And I think I was probably seeing someone at the time, but I remember feeling like I was very much in love in that moment. and because the time and space that I was sharing with the person that I was with, I remember laying there, and I think I was probably holding her hand. That was a very, very deep feeling that band created in me. And also, I remember after they played, I saw them in the alley, and they were all so kind. I just was going up to say, hey, you did a great set. And they said, oh, thank you. Hey, wait. And they handed me a bunch of stickers and a couple of their spray painted CDs, because that's what they would do at the time. Yep. That band for sure. And then later on, I was able to play a couple sets of my own music, and then Justin played some KSK songs at a couple of things that we had both been booked at, and I was like, this is so cool. And it's like, I don't think he knows that that's how I feel about him, but I'm like, this is so cool. And it's like, we're just two guys from Flint, but like, man, when I was a kid, you don't know what your music made me feel like, you know, like it's huge. And so it's, I don't know, that's one of my favorite things about this area. You hear stories about people who meet their idols, like they're like these big rock stars or pop stars or whatever, and they're like, oh man, they're jerks, you know, or they're let down, you know. But like in Flint, you can meet those people that made you feel a certain way, that made you feel like anything was possible in that moment. Yeah. And you're just a part of the same city, and you're a part of the same music scene. It's a really cool feeling, you know. It's inspiring, I feel like. The other band that did that for me that I remember is the Hot Flashes. Which
I'm not familiar with the Hot Flashes.
The Hot Flashes were a punk ska band. I want to say that they maybe were more from like the Grand Blanc area at the time, but like, you know, the local was what we had, so that's where anyone from the surrounding areas would come to play. But the Hot Flashes, one of the first times I saw them play, I think Ashley Little, she was really into ska, and we became friends. And I remember I was just enjoying myself, and she just yanked me up onto the stage in the middle of while they were playing, and like, and we were just, you know, skanking, just dancing. And I thought this was just like the coolest thing. You know, I'm like 15, 16 years old, and I'm like, I have no idea what's going on, but everyone is dancing and having a good time, and it's just goofy and it's fun and it's cool music. And so, yeah, that was another moment where it was like a local band from this area that was just like, I felt included, and it was because of the music that they made, you know? Yeah. Wow. Takes me back.
Yeah, I bet. So in terms of, those are good experiences.
Yeah.
What's the worst, most awful night you've had on stage?
The worst, most awful night I've had on stage in the Flint area.
In Flint, yeah.
Okay, in the Flint area, I have, I don't know if it's like awful, but it was definitely one that was not necessarily a good experience for all parties involved. In my old band, 1876, we were like a punk thrash band, and we got booked at Corona Road Bar. And, you know, we were definitely the type of band that would bring amps that were way too loud, which, you know, worked depending on the show we were playing. Like that kind of music, it's almost like bigger and louder. Like it's like a wall of sound kind of made a difference for people who like to go to those shows. So we saw that, and we kind of said, all right, let's do it. Let's bring full stacks for no reason, you know, but like we're at Corona Road Bar. We had never played there before. And so we show up, and the sound guy was not happy, obviously. And, you know, I remember at least always trying to be pretty cool about stuff and saying, hey, we'll turn down. Like, it's really not an issue, because like, we also wanted to sound good. If the sound guy was going to try to mic things, we weren't trying to blow out the PA or anything like that, you know? So I remember we were talking to the sound guy, and he's like, hey, if you want, like, don't even mic the amps, just mic up the drums like you would, and put the drums and the vocals through the PA. Or if you don't even want to do the drums, like just run the vocals through the PA, and we'll call it good, so we're not pumping all this sound into your system. And he was still not happy with that. He was just like, you know what? He was really mad, and he was like, you just, you know, whatever. If that's what you want to do, it's not my problem. If you guys sound like shit. I'm like, well, we're just going to be screaming and thrashing. I'm pretty sure it's going to sound bad anyway. So it's more fun than anything. But we start playing.
This is the end of the individual. This marks the end of you and me. We'll make this dreamer become the fiction of their fears. Let's face it, who doesn't want to drink more free? Execute the useless.
and I saw him he had like headphones on for some reason. He didn't need them. Like there was no reason for him to be checking the levels. I mean, I would understand for some bands, but not for what we were doing. He threw the headphones down, and then he just went he just did the, like across the neck, kind of like cut it out kind of thing. And he was like, "It's done. I'm done." And he comes over and he shuts the PA off, and he's like, "You guys are done. You guys are going to get the cops called. We have a noise ordinance, and if you guys are too loud, they're going to call, and then they're going to, and we were just like, whatever, because we were younger, and we're like, you don't know what you're talking about. We thought we weren't being jerks. So at the time, like I said, we would bring all these amps unnecessarily. And when I say all these amps, I mean, we'd even bring we had like an 810 for bass. And on top of that, we also...
In the crowd bar.
Yeah. Imagine, like, there's no reason to have an 810 in most places.
Unless you're trying to hurt the audience.
But not only that, now we're in Corona Road Bar, which feels like, a living room with a stage,
Pretty much, yeah.
And that's not saying anything bad about them. It's the space. It's how big it is. Okay. And when he cut the PA, we carried an XLR to 1/4-inch adapter, and so we just grabbed the mic and the mic cable, and so we're just dragging this amp back and forth across the stage, just screaming the vocals, and like it's just nonsense, And it was a bad show. It was not a good time. No one had fun. Like the sound guy had a bad time. We were just being rebellious, and it was just bad news. I think the people got a kick out of it. They were just like, what is happening? I remember we did a cover of Ace of Spades that night, so like so they recognized at least one thing. And as we packed up, like someone put a sticker on one of the walls, and by the time we were leaving, we noticed that it had to have been the sound guy wrote underneath the sticker, "Never again." So we never played there again.
That's a badge of honor right there, if you ask me. So let's talk a little bit about your current music.
Sure. Yeah.
You've been, as you say, putting out a single a month. How long you been doing this?
Well, I think I started that in November. So it's not been too long. I started in November, and then I had to skip December because it got really busy with the holidays. So then I picked up January. Technically, the one that was going to be out in February got pushed into like I think it got out right at the end of February, if not like the first day of March is what I'll have to double check the date. And then I just put another one out. It was supposed to be out on the 15th, but there was a delay with the distribution. I made artwork that they rejected.
Okay.
So it didn't get out on time, but it's still, so we're,
You finished.
Yeah, finished it. It's out there. It's out there,
That's fair.
So, but yeah, that's one part of the current projects and goals that I have going on right now. So
the live show.
Yeah. This year my plan was not to do that at all. I wanted to take the year to focus on recording with the band. I started playing with the band probably about a year and a half, maybe almost 2 years ago now. And originally they had just learned the songs that I had already recorded and released with a full band sound to it. And then I had other songs that I'd written that I'd not recorded. So they wrote their parts to it, and we had been, mixing all of this in together as a set. And I really wanted to make sure that we got a chance to record them. I'd been performing under my own name, and then when we brought them, we dubbed them El Sueño. And so, they wrote and had been performing, and, we're not functioning like they're hired hands, like we function like a band when we write and when we perform and stuff. So, in other words, they've been doing it pretty much for free. So I said, okay, well, I got to get these guys on writing credits. I have to get these guys recorded, so that way the efforts that they're putting in is like, shown, and like people can hear what they're doing, because that's why we sound like what we do. So my goal was just to only record this year, and then hopefully, get back up in the fall. But little by little shows have just been kind of hard to say no to type of thing, So it's been it feels chaotic, but it has not been a very busy show schedule, but the shows that we've been doing have been, have felt pretty extraordinary. So
the first question that came to mind when I heard the first recording with the band, where the hell did you find a pedal steel player in Flint?
So right now, I actually don't have him recorded. So for the recordings that I have that have pedal steel, one of the pedal steel players is actually from Australia.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and that was something that, like, during pandemic, I just scrolling through, and I think my phone heard me say something about Western gear or cowboy stuff, and it put these musicians, and there's apparently a really big country music scene in Australia.
Yeah.
And so I got in touch with these guys, and I was like, hey, would you want to play? And they're like, yeah. So a couple of the songs have him on it. And then later on, I found another guy from, I want to say he's in Nashville. I can't remember off the top of my head. And then I had that person play on The World Feels Less on Fire with you.
I think I wanna mean something to you. I wanna sleep in on the weekends and wonder what we'll do. Well, I can make you coffee or bring you something sweet. I wanna show you how much you mean to me. You could remind me to turn off the news. Everybody hates the president, the last one or two. Well, everyone is dying or watches too much Fox News. Well, the world feels less on fire with you. I don't wanna know what's trending today. Another billionaire race to get to outer space. I don't have a 5-year plan. I don't mind if you're making OnlyFans. I'm just ready for something new. The world feels less on fire with you. Maybe I've seen too many rom-coms. Maybe lately I'm feeling kinda lost. When I think of who I'll tell about my day, I only ever think of your face. My brain's a bit messy, but I'm pretty good about cleaning dishes in the sink. Well, climate change sounds scary and the world might end real soon. I hope you'll spend more time with me soon, 'cause the world feels less on fire with you. Less on fire with you.
But as far as my bandmate, that's why I've been trying to get those guys recorded, because I actually don't have him personally on a recording yet. So he's been kind of writing his own stuff, but taking into account what's already on the recordings and kind of doing his own thing. So there's like a handful of songs that are not recorded that he has all his own parts written to. And so I'm like, I really want to get all these guys their writing credits and stuff, so
For sure, yeah.
So that was the goal, and that's still the goal. We're in the process of recording that stuff right now, but having to take little breaks here and there to go out and do the show and prep for the show. So it feels okay.
The goal for 2024, basically record, except when.
Yeah, exactly. We want to like, get back and like do like tour, like actually like have a block of shows, but it's really important that we get those songs recorded so we're properly represented, so yeah, the goal was to record, but we're taking the shows where we can, for sure.
Okay, well, that is the end of the first part of the podcast. The second part, lightning round.
Oh boy, okay.
This is where it gets fun.
Oh no.
In theory.
get sad immediately.
This is where I ask dumb questions about music in Flint and Michigan in general. First question I ask this of all my guests: who is objectively more horrible, Ted Nugent or Kid Rock?
Oh man, Kid Rock. Kid. Oh man, that's tough. I only say objectively because I feel like Kid Rock is just, he's a big imposter, and I feel like Ted Nugent, as much as I don't like his politics and what he stands for, the guy can rock. You know,
He could.
I've never seen Guy Ritchie. Is his name Guy Ritchie? Kid Rock? Isn't it Guy Ritchie?
No, it's
Robert. Bob Ritchie, yeah. I've never seen him pick up a guitar.
No, I think he's done it, but it's not been pretty.
Yeah.
Name one thing that's actually worse than Kid Rock.
One thing? I can't think of anything that's worse than Kid Rock.
Wow.
I mean,
Ebola?
no. There's nothing worse than
The atomic bomb? No. Nope.
There's a Hard Times article that just came out to where it's like we somehow tricked Kid Rock into saying "Bob with the Bob" backwards to banish him back to his to the galaxy from which he came, or the yeah. And I'm like, yeah, exactly. There's nothing worse.
A pestilence upon the universe. Detroit or Flint style coney?
Flint style all the way.
Yeah, I mean, you obviously don't eat conies.
No, I
anymore,
don't. But I mean, I still get down on some vegan conies. You know, mix it up the right way.
Vegan coney. That's something I've
you get
even considered.
You get the impossible versions of everything. And I was just having a talk about Tom Z's the other day, and how like that was such a that was the one place where we could go and order a cup of coffee, maybe a plate of fries for 4 hours, and just chain smoke, and Tom wouldn't kick us out.
There were a lot of places like that back in my day.
Yeah, and it's gone. You know, I don't smoke cigarettes anymore, but I mean, I'd still hang out. If we could.
The main thing was the coffee.
Yeah, exactly.
And sitting there talking to your crush until 3 in the morning.
There's a funny story about Tom Z's, and I know we're in lightning rounds, but I just want to tell you the story really quick. So there is a joke band, and I say joke band because we thought it was funny. But in hindsight, I was like, is this kind of cool? Had like a Tom Waitsy kind of vibe. But it started off as like we made this really fast 3-chord punk song called Skin Suit. And it was just like the lyrics were, I want to wear your skin as a suit. I want to cut you up and live inside you. And it just repeated that, you know. And it sounded like a Ramones song in a way, you know, or a Misfits song. And we called this group the Garrities. And I remember, and this was when you would put music on MySpace. Like there was Pure Volume, and then people started putting their music on MySpace. So we made a MySpace page, and we didn't tell anyone. We didn't put any information. We just some random stock image, and then added a bunch of people that we knew from the Flint scene. Well, one night we were sitting at Tom Z's, and we heard like a mutual musician or a fellow musician 2 booths over, and he comes in, he sits down with whoever he was with, and he's like, "Oh man, what are you guys up to?" And I'm like, "I don't know." He's like, Have you guys heard this band, the Garrities? And they're like, no. And like, they fucking suck. And so we're just dying in this booth because, like, you know. So then this eventually evolved. We took this idea and we like made this like fanfic of this person that doesn't exist. You know, it went from the Garrities, which is like a punk group, to then we kind of like chipped it away to now it became like years later, and now the guy from that band is now doing like solo weird Tom Waitsy kind of songs to where he's singing in this gravelly voice about the devil. So we make like there's like 3 or 4 songs about the devil, and we put it on a burn CD, and we kind of like left it around. And later on, another friend came up to me. I was hanging out, and have you heard John Garrity? And I'm like, what do you mean? He was like, it was a friend, and he didn't know that it was me and I, the friend that made this. And he's like, I found this burnt CD, and it just said John H. Garrity on it, and I really thought the devil was trying to take my soul when I listened to that. I was really high when I found the CD, and I'm like, what? And so it was like this really insane thing that's like, here's this just joke that we made. But anyways, Tom Z's, it's like the first time I was like, oh man, you can take a joke really far if you just stick with it. Stick with a bit, stay with a bit.
I love that we made it in just a couple minutes from vegan coneys to demonic possession. That's fantastic.
Okay, I'm sorry. Lighting you around. Sorry.
All right, your favorite Faygo flavor?
Rock and rye. Rock and rye.
Popular
I
answer.
love rock and rye. Oh my God, it reminds me of summertime.
And it's strange because I don't think that's a flavor with anybody else.
Yeah,
I don't think I've ever seen anybody else make a rock and rye. I don't even know what it really is, to tell the truth.
Back when I used to drink, we used to get a bottle of R&R, which was very cheap whiskey, and a bottle of rock and rye. We called it R&R and R&R.
And that's what you'd be saying by the end of the night.
Exactly.
R.
Oh boy, I'm glad that phase is over.
Your favorite band or artist from Michigan?
Favorite band or artist?
Any era.
Oh man, Morrisville Bridge, which is so Ryan Gregory plays drums in El Sueño, but back in I think around 2012, him and two of his friends had this band that they put together called Morrisville Bridge, and it was like one of the funnest bands I'd ever heard. It was kind of short lived, and it was just a really sweet time frame because we were friends with all three of these people. And so it was like their songs just kind of they reminded me of what it was like just to hear your best friend comfort you, but to music that you could dance to in a way. Yeah, it was really, really sweet time frame.
I actually do remember that band. I saw them once. And I mean, anything Ryan does is so inventive and interesting.
Yeah.
He's such an unusual brain.
Yeah. I love spending time with him. I've loved that guy for so many years. I'm so happy that we get to work together on a project right now.
Coolest Flint landmark.
I don't know if this even counts, and especially since most of those things are gone from it now, I think, but I used to love the Dort Mall. Does that count? I love the Dort Mall.
I think so, yeah, because there's so much cool stuff in it.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. There was that fish that they had for the longest time. And I think for a few years ago, they finally moved it somewhere else that he could better live its days out. But
it was a little bit of a small aquarium by its standards. I mean, by normal fish's standards, it was huge, but that thing was
that thing took up that whole space.
Yeah, it was a big old fish.
Yeah, and every day just looking at you.
Yeah, it had a slightly unnerving gaze.
Yeah, I also really love the Capitol Theater. I think that's just like seeing when I came to first be able to go inside of the Capitol Theater, it was not what it is now. Right. It was no good, So,
but it was beautiful in its wastedness.
Yeah, it really was.
Yeah, I remember that era too, and it was just it looked like it was haunted.
Yeah, and I remember. So I had a gig there in the early 2000s. Joel had hosted. It was. I think they were using the space as kind of like an art kind of showing, so like people could have their art showings there, and so one of my bands got booked to do like just music in the background kind of thing, and it was so cool. I was like, what are we doing here? This is such a cool place, But yeah, I love that place.
Favorite eccentric Flint character?
Rest in peace, Eric Mays. I love Eric Mays. I know that he's very polarizing depending on, where you stand on things. But I mean, what a character, and the thing with, I never knew him like personally, but I really, the gusto he had to stand up for whatever it was he was standing up for was just incredible. Like,
sometimes nobody knew, including him, but
oh my goodness. He became like TikTok famous.
Did he?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Like if you look up Eric Mays on TikTok, people love him. And it's very interesting to hear the different ways that, like some people loved him in this community and other people just like couldn't stand him. It's just the reality of it. But like outside of the area, like he had his base for sure. Like once people caught wind of how he would speak at these, the city council hearings and stuff, like they were like, what? We need someone like that. I'm like, wow. But, it's a peculiar kind of individual, watching him navigate, local politics and the way that he did. Outspoken, would stand up for himself, and, not afraid to go beyond the what you would think the rules are. I guess he was always pushing the boundaries of what those rules were, and he knew what they were, surprisingly enough. But from what I gathered from other people that worked with him, is that however he was at the council hearings were not necessarily how he would always handle his job. And so, if you were someone that had to call him, if he represented your area, he would take care of you. He would go and get it done, is what I heard, So it was a really peculiar person to watch, and someone that, from the sidelines, I'm like, man, I don't get it, but I am just in awe of it. I'm just in awe of everything this guy's doing. For better or worse, I keep turning the lightning around into essays. I'm sorry.
No. This is all rabbit holes. 90% rabbit holes.
Something I didn't need. I didn't want to be everything you need. I couldn't love you forever. I couldn't love you forever. Let's take a train to Chicago for a week. Catch up with friends who will say we're so unique. I couldn't be the ground beneath your feet. I couldn't be your friend at the very least. I couldn't love you forever. 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 Drive for 6 hours. You like sleeping on the beach. Feel so alone in the company that we keep. Don't tell a soul about why we never speak. Drop you back home. Yeah, that's where I used to sleep. I couldn't love you forever.
after the show, when you were younger, and you were still doing drugs, you're still drinking.
Yeah.
Life was a little crazier.
Mm-hmm.
What happens after the show? What was your usual wind down?
Oh, there was no wind down.
No?
No. After the show. Oh man. So when we used to go pretty wild, someone would have probably a gallon of whiskey and whatever else we get our hands on, and we would probably have a show the next day. Someone would be sober enough to drive, and the rest of us would go to town, and I mean, we'd be wasted for the next show the next day. You know, that's just what it was. And it wasn't until the shows were done and it was like, and by then it's just exhaustion. That's what we would do.
This is on tour.
Yeah. I remember. Oh boy, I'm trying to think of an interesting time. I remember there was a time where we came back from Chicago and we went to a friend's house who was going to let us crash there. We were just getting into town, and my buddy, who was a really big drinker at the time, said, they're selling alcohol at this point in time. Let's stop on the way here. And so like we'd been up all night. We played the show. Some of us had beers and drinks. And so we're kind of like half buzzed up on the way back. And then he's like, let's keep going. So it's like, it was like maybe 8 a.m. when we pulled in. He's like, pull into Rite Aid or whatever. Get a half gallon of whiskey. And then by 1 p.m. I came to, meaning that like I was existing, but it's like that where you sober up, but you didn't sleep, so it feels like you just woke up and you're like, oh my goodness. When I say kiddie pool, it's because there was just a children's pool that someone bought. There were no children here. Okay. I want to make this very clear, but I woke up and my friend and I were just hanging out and, we had lit cigarettes and I was just completely nude in this kiddie pool in the hot sun. I'm like, what? Where are we? And he was like, oh, we polished off the half gallon. We're going to go get some more. I'm like, what is happening? And so that was what it was like winding down. I guess it was just, we would just party until we couldn't stay awake anymore.
Just naked in a kiddie pool.
Yeah. The worst thing about that is that we had a party that night at that same house, and it was on somewhere in the ether. There is a digital camera that has photos of of a couple of my friends and I just like sitting nude in this kiddie pool, just wasted out of our minds. And that camera got stolen at that party, so I don't know what happened to those photos.
If you run for office, I'm sure
they'll show up.
They'll show up. So now that you're sober, and have been for how long?
It has been over 6 years now, so it'll be 7 years. What year is it? It's 2024, so in October it will be 7 years.
And it certainly hasn't slowed you down from being peculiar. I guess we can't really go without mentioning your videos, which are absolutely fantastic. If you're not a follower of Fernando's on social media, you really should be, because he makes what he calls cringe videos. I just call them entertaining.
Thank you.
Where he just does ridiculous things. I think my one of my favorites was the one where you were speaking right into the camera and holding out a flower. Remember the one I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Just giving positive affirmations to the listener, and just like, oh, this makes me feel nice. I know he's being silly, but it kind of works too.
Yeah, that's the goal. I don't know. Just oh man. So
every Friday you've got to be flying into the weekend.
Yeah,
incredibly bad CGI of Fernando flying on the back of an eagle.
Yeah, with Rick Astley playing as well. The whole thing this whole thing goes back. So, where do I start? So everything now is hashtag Fernando Cult, and this was a joke. So to me and my friends in like 2014, I think maybe around that time frame. But that was right when we were starting to see influencers, and they weren't really called influencers yet, but people that their social media accounts would blow up, maybe on YouTube, or Vine was a thing at the time. I always found it really peculiar, because I really enjoy other musicians and artists and actors and actresses and all these creatives and painters and photographers and DJs and all these people, but I might be in awe of their work, but I'm never I never feel less than of a person. And some people will idolize and like, oh, I can never be like them. And it's not that I think that I can never be like them. I know I will never be like them because they're who they are and I'm who I am and you're who you are. So I try not to worry about that in life, in any aspect. We're just people, we're all just on our own paths. And I remember seeing like when they started to really pick up that they were influencing people and their captions were becoming a little like, I was like, wow, it sounds really conceited, like they're referring to people as their followers and it wasn't as common as it is now. Now it's a very normal thing to see this. It's like watching TV, right? And you see your TV stars, now you have your internet stars. And so I made a couple random Instagram posts and the caption was just like, hello, good morning to all my beautiful followers. And which were just like my friends from town. So it's like, it's really like, why are you posting? That's weird, And I'm like, that's the joke. And so I kind of killed the joke after a little bit. Like some people picked it up. Like there's a couple of videos, like there's one that I saved and there were these people that I met from playing shows in Port Huron in the band that I was in at the time. And they caught on to the joke of like Fernando called. And so like, there's like a video of them, like they're all drinking beer and like, this beer is for Fernando, our God. Fernando called. I'm like, yes, they get the joke. They know I don't really think that way about myself and they're in on the joke. This is great. So fast forward a bunch of years, I kind of let the joke die out and TikTok becomes a really big thing. And during the pandemic, I got really bored and my sister and I would just kind of come up with these weird ideas and I'm like, I'm bored and I don't really know how to promote my music right now. So let's just make funny videos. And one of them went viral and I was like, oh, this is weird. So then I just kept making videos in that character and I just kind of used it as an opportunity to like, I don't know, make people laugh and smile, and
Sure.
and that's
it makes people pay attention to you, which is good.
Yeah, I've gone through there was like a little bit of a time frame there where I was like, man, like I really wish that I could focus more on music and that it would only be music, and I actually wanted to not do anything but music. And then there was another time where I was like, no, I'm only going to do this or that. And then I realized this is just the type of artist I am, like I don't have to just be like, I don't have to just present myself as just this musician. I don't have to present myself as this, obnoxious person on the internet. Like I can be both of these creative outlets and,
Sure.
and, I can be entertaining either way because at the end of the day, if music and art is just a means of connecting with people and making myself and helping me feel like I'm, like I'm human and like I feel what you feel and you feel what I feel. We've been through it together, in some way or another we can relate and there's empathy. Like then it doesn't really matter which way to connect with people because if you're capable, whatever way you're capable of connecting, I think it's important to kind of do those things, and there's different times in your life that will call for different things, you don't, some people might only be one thing their whole life, but some people will be a multitude of different types of roles in their lives for the different people that they meet. And I think it's kind of important to say that's okay too, and just be whatever you need to be or whatever is calling to you in that moment. And so there's times where it is me flying in on an eagle and, someone's like, I know it's the weekend when I see this video. And I'm like, we made it, we made it through another week in this capitalistic hellscape. We made it to the weekend. You did it, you did it, bestie.
Flying it
Yeah. Or sometimes it's just an acoustic song I wrote and someone's like, hey, I really like this. And the most recent thing I just put out was actually a combination of the both. I had, I get a lot of like trolls sometimes that, and kind of like in a nasty way too. And they'll be like very, they'll be homophobic or, anti this or anti that. They'll be racist sometimes. And I try to steer clear of politics. Every now and then I'll dip my toe in it, but I don't think it's okay to be, to talk poorly of any kind of marginalized community, and I have plenty of friends that are LGBTQIA+, and I am a part of a marginalized community as well. I'm Hispanic or, I'm Mexican and indigenous, so it's like, So what I did is I took these comments that someone had left and I just turned them into lyrics for a song because I thought it'd be kind of funny. And then I posted the video and people were like, put this out. So I did. So I went and recorded it the next night and I just put that one out. So it's kind of like, it's finally feels like I'm coming to terms with what it is to accept all these different versions of myself. And I'm just a goofball. I'm just a normal person who just is trying to figure out life and connect with people. And sometimes it's through music and sometimes it's just through the lens of how ridiculous life can be sometimes, you know? So it's all fun.
That's a perfect way to tie a little bow on this particular podcast. We'll hear that song as we finish out the podcast. I want to thank you, Fernando, for joining me for this very enjoyable conversation.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure to hang out with you.
Yeah, this has been, once again, the Flint Connection podcast. Thanks for listening.
Well, I hate this, unironically. You're the creepiest looking person I have ever seen. Well, I hate this, unironically. You're the creepiest looking person I have ever seen. Well, you make me so uncomfortable, I wanna throw up. You make me so uncomfortable, I wanna throw up. You make me so uncomfortable, I wanna throw up. You make me so uncomfortable, I wanna throw up. Nobody asked your gender, but what is your gender for real? Creepy? Nobody asked your gender, but wait, I'm gonna ask your gender. What is your gender for real? Is it creepy? Well, you make me so uncomfortable, I wanna throw up. You make me so uncomfortable, I wanna throw up. You make me so uncomfortable, I wanna throw up. You make me so uncomfortable, I wanna throw up. I hate this, unironically. You're the creepiest looking person I have ever seen. Nobody asked your gender, but wait, I'm gonna ask your gender. What is your gender for real? Is it creepy? Is it creepy? You make me so uncomfortable, I wanna throw up. You make me so uncomfortable, I wanna throw up. You make me so uncomfortable, I wanna throw up. You make me so uncomfortable, I wanna throw up. Creepy.
You've been listening to the Flint Connection podcast, a production of Albador Limited, produced, written, and hosted by Michael Absher. Theme music courtesy of May June. Follow Albador Music on Instagram or the Reverend DJ Michael A. on Facebook. And make sure to follow the Flint Connection wherever you get your podcasts. And don't miss my live DJ streams every Thursday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Time on Twitch and Mixcloud. The show is called Kaleidoscope. Get all the links at Linktree/Albador. It's linktr.ee/ALBADORE.